What's up, everybody? Today we are going to talk about the hypostatic union, which is the union in the person, which is the hypostasis of Jesus. Um, Jesus had two natures, the humane nature and the divine nature. How does that work? Well, obviously, the humane nature had a beginning. It had some moment in which it was created, which is obviously when he was conceived in Mary. And then there's the divine nature, which is not created by definition. So I don't have to explain really how a divine nature works. Um, but really, the Christian claim is that he is both fully God and fully man. He's not 50% God and 50% man. He isn't, um, he is not like both at the same time in the same respect. Those are true, they are two natures at the same time, but not in the same respect. What does that mean? For those who don't are not familiar with this terminology or really can't quite grasp it because it's not easy. It just means that they are at the same time. Jesus is both man and divine, but humane and divine, but the important part is that they are not both, Jesus is not both limited and unlimited in the same way. Instead of respect, you can use the word way. Um, I'm using limited and limited, but you can use the knowledge, you can use everything. Um, so the fact that the human nature of Jesus is, you know, um, the human nature of Jesus is limited, obviously, because by definition, he is fully human. So that means that he is limited, but that doesn't affect with the divine um, nature of Jesus, which doesn't change. Uh, so to help to understand with this terminology, Jesus is one who and two whats. Um, who is just describing the person. The what is describing the nature of that person. So he has one person and is one person and two natures. Some objections that you will um, get throughout the debates. One we already tackled, which is, isn't it a kind of the, isn't it a contradiction? Or one you hear is the Jesus didn't know the hour, which I find that really interesting because you have to know the Greek, and in the Greek, the word oiden is means to tell or to declare also, and we see the same word in First Corinthians 2, verse 2, um, in which Paul says, "I know nothing when I was with you, know nothing but Jesus Christ." Does that mean that he literally doesn't know anything uh, but Jesus Christ and his crucifixion? No, it means that he declared only that. And, there is another passage in Acts 1 um, in which he's saying to the disciples after he was risen, "It is not for you to know my time of return." And there, the word that is used is a completely different word and is used only to know. So this is how we as Christians harmonize this versus um, another one you will have is God is not man. Again, it is conflating the two things. It is saying that the human nature um, changes the divine nature, but those are separate. Those are two separate. natures. Like, no, they're not really separate, but they are um, distinct. So I would not say that um, one doesn't affect the other. At least that's what I would say. An analogy you can use, obviously, it's not perfect, but like with the Quran both is the uncreated word of God and had a beginning in the sense of like the book was compiled at a certain point. Okay. Um, that's not exactly the same way, but it is important to note that like it is kind of understanding, even in Islamic understanding, it is logically possible that that one thing, in this case, in their case, it's a book, has two different natures. Um, I don't know. I'm just thinking about other contradiction. Okay, for example, they say this is just logical. Well, it is just beyond our experience of the world, but that's not logical. That's not beyond logic. Um, Another one is obviously then God died. For example, you will hear this a lot. Um, how can God die? Well, God didn't cease to exist. He did um, die. The human nature died, but the divine nature did not cease to exist. So this is why this is important. And yeah, those are not two separated natures, but they are two distinct. What I meant to say with separated, I said the wrong word, which is which would be really, those are distinct. Distinct and separated are two different things. Um, so they're not divided. They are not. So it is not divided. It's not changed. It is not mixed. At the end of the day, the question that everyone needs to answer, obviously, the ones that deny the hypostatic union, is it illogical for a person to have two natures? The response is no. God bless you guys. Um, Hope to see it another time.